Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello everybody and welcome to 3D Printing Basics. I just wanted to let you know that if you're interested in getting every single episode a week before its release and ad-free, then please head over to my Patreon. The link will be in the show notes, and like I said, you can get every single episode ad-free and a week before its initial release date. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I hope you like this episode. Hello and welcome back to 3D Printing Basics. This is episode number 68, and in this episode we're going to be discussing heated inserts and how they could help you in your 3D printing journey. Before we get into that, I did just want to mention that I am changing a little bit about the Patreon specifically and how you can support me. Every episode on Patreon will now be released a week early, so if you wanted to support this podcast and get a little something on the side, you will be getting every single episode a week before its release on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, all that good stuff. So are interested, there is a link in the description or show notes of this podcast. You can head on over there and check it out. Thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate all the support. And with that being said, let's get into today's episode. Alright, so I feel like most of us in our 3D printing journeys have come across a situation where we needed to screw parts together or maybe bolt parts together. And as we all know, I'm sure, screwing directly into 3D printed parts, it's not a viable solution. The plastic threads, they're easy to strip. If you are screwing and unscrewing something together a lot, the material fatigues really easily and it's not going to hold up over time. And if you're using something that's load bearing, like if you 3D printed some brackets, mounts, enclosures, if you're prototyping something, especially in the robotic space too, there's a lot of bolts and screws involved there, then you need something that's reliable and is going to hold up over time. And threaded inserts, or also heated inserts as I know them, are a very viable solution for someone that is looking to bolt parts together in 3D printing. So let's talk about what they are. Threaded inserts or heat set inserts or brass inserts. What they are brass inserts that you can heat up and then melt directly into the plastic. You do need a relief hole. Oftentimes on the inserts that you buy, there is a diagram that will tell you exactly the diameter that the hole needs to be. But basically what you do is most people use a soldering iron and they just lay it on top. They lay the brass insert over top of the hole that you want to melt it into, and then you kind of add some gentle force, not a whole lot, just gentle force with the soldering iron, and at the same time that it is heating it up and melting into the plastic, it is also pushing down into that hole. And once you've got it down far enough, you kind of just lift the soldering iron out, leaving behind the heat set threaded insert that once it cools down is going to give you a nice set of metal threads that you can use in your part. So they're actually really easy to use if you design the holes, if you pre-add them into your 3D prints. It's really, really easy to kind of set them in there and set it and forget it. And then especially if you wanted to, say you were following a set of plans, you can pre-design the holes and you can have them in very specific parts and very accurate parts too, so that you can have your threads placed exactly where you want them, and then everything is going to go together quickly and easily. There's going to be no guessing, no off measurements, anything like that. It's just set and forget, and everything works just as expected. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay. Ready to take your electronics projects to the next level? PCBWay offers everything you need, from custom PCBs to 3D printing and even CNC machining, all under one roof. They're trusted by engineers and makers worldwide for their exceptional quality and fast turnaround. And here's a special deal for listeners of 3D Printing Basics. Use the promo code 3D Printing Squared, SQUARED, to get $10 off your first order. Start your next project with PCBWay and see the difference for yourself. Head over to PCBWay.com today. I actually just used them recently myself on a job that I was doing for a customer. They wanted, I can't say exactly what they wanted, but basically there were some very small M2 screws that needed to be used, and I knew with how small they were that the threads would strip really easily if I just tried to thread them directly into the plastic. So I used some really small M2 threaded inserts, and they work great, and the customer is able to screw it and unscrew it, and there's going to be no fatiguing there. There's going to be no stripping of any kind of threads. It's going to hold up over time. And also, I've heard some people with some issues of the heat set inserts actually falling out. That has not been an issue yet, and this client has had this part for months now, so I don't think it's ever going to be a problem. I think when that is a problem, it just means that the hole that you used to set the insert in was probably just a little bit too wide, which didn't give the insert a lot of plastic to kind of melt into and grab onto. So if your parts are falling out, then that's definitely could be the issue there. But if you get everything right, then heat set inserts are something that's going to hold up and really be beneficial for whoever you're making it for, whether it's for yourself or a customer. It's going to be really beneficial, and it's going to be something that works a lot better than plastic threads. On top of the making the hole that the insert goes into too far or too big, I wanted to highlight some other mistakes. You can definitely melt your insert too far through the part, and if you bottom out the hole and keep going, the part is hot and the plastic is obviously prone to melting, so you can just melt way too far, and then you get melted plastic up inside the threads, which makes everything super difficult. And especially when it cools down, it's going to be really tough to clean out or get out of there, and then your threads just won't work right. And another common mistake that I see is people trying to use the parts or use the threaded insert before it is cooled all the way down. So for example, they'll heat the part up, and mind you, we're heating it up to hundreds of degrees Celsius with this soldering iron, and they're not letting it cool all the way down before putting a screw in and torquing it down. And so then the insert moves, it pops out, it's going to create a whole host of problems for you. So please make sure that you let the heated insert cool all the way down before you applying any kind of torque or using any kind of screw in there. So that's definitely something to think about. But I also wanted to highlight some screwing or heated insert alternatives that you could use if you didn't have heated inserts. Maybe you don't feel comfortable with heat setting or using a soldering iron or anything like that. There are definitely some other options for you to use. One option is going to be what we call a nut trap, and that is where we either embed or we can kind of glue in there, or we can just put it on one side and kind of sandwich it in between the part and the bolt. And that's where we put a nut on one side of the part and basically just thread a bolt through and use the nut essentially as a washer to kind of clamp everything together. It makes a lot of sense if you are wanted to use something other than a heated insert. I'm sure it's cheaper too, and you can just kind of make a cutout for the hexagonal bolts so that it doesn't spin around and it kind of locks in there. And overall, that's also a very good alternative. It's a very good strategy to use. I know Prusa uses them on their 3D printers. When you assemble them, they use the nut traps themselves. So I feel like if Prusa Research is using them, then you can almost certainly say that it is a good method to use for your 3D printed parts. You can also use self-tapping screws, although I will say I've never used them. I don't really trust them compared to the other two. I don't want to say don't try it, but to me, while self-tapping screws are good for something like metal, I feel like for plastic, you're just going to have the same problem that you would with normally threading something into plastic, where it fatigues over time and has an easier potential to strip out. And with that being said, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that you learned something about heated inserts and learn how to maybe incorporate them into your workflow. Like I said, heated inserts are a really good use for making sure that 3D printed parts can come together quickly and easily and also be assembled and disassembled, whether you need to take them on site or you're just messing around at home. It can really make your prints products and not just prototypes. It kind of adds that professional feel to it, and it'll definitely impress customers if you're trying to sell to them, or your family if you're just trying to mess around with it. With that being said, thank you guys so much for listening. Like I said, if you are interested in supporting me, you can head to my Patreon, where episodes will now be coming out a week early. So be sure to head on over there. Like I said, thank you guys so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.